Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the League of Europe. We are here for round number 14 around the Zandvoort City Circuit. My name is Jake. I'll taking you guys through this for this evening. Joined alongside me, he is currently having something to eat as well as I am, so we're probably going to be a bit more of a mukbang for this evening. But I'm joined by Mr. QBR Killer. Jake, how you doing this evening? It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it has. I wasn't here at Austria, and then we had break week. I wasn't meant to be here tonight. I had a date, but you know how it is. You get stood up, and why wouldn't you want to get stood up when we've got a tremendous 36-lap race ahead of us? I know where I would rather be this evening, and it's in your company, Jack. I can think of no better way than spending my Saturday night. And the sad thing is, I'm not even being sarcastic. 14 drivers we have with us, not quite the full 20, is it? But our championship lead has been slashed. Ariel Felipe is now just 7 points clear of cost cap, isn't he? After, well, I'm sure you'll take us through what happened last week at Austria.
Yeah, no. So, Koskap had obviously taken a win last week after a few stewards' decisions. It meant that Miami didn't end up keeping P2 in the end. So, in fact, there was a lot of stewards inquiries that went on for Division 2. They're trying to do everything they can just to try and keep that championship just a bit shaken up. So I'll run you through the standings as they look at the moment for yourself. So yeah, Ariel Felipe on 174 points with Cost Capin in second with 167 points. So 7 points gap at the top between those two guys. It ended up meaning that Luke finished in second last week, taking 18 points to his name. And meant that Miami ended up actually finishing in third in the end. So he didn't take second after that contact he made with Chris, ended up finishing in third instead. But yeah, so Luke is on third with 137 points, Lifebat in fourth with 122 points, Larkin in fifth with 107, T-Brum in sixth with 100 points, only the top six breaking the 100 point mark so far this season. With another 4 more rounds left to go. Pope in 7th with 94 points after he did a tremendous qualifying last week, and you know he was leading for quite a bit of the time around Austria but just didn't manage to make it. RJ is in 8th with 89 points, Evans in 9th with 80 points, and I can't really see him here tonight at all, or even saying that he was not going to be here tonight either, considering he's also not even finished a race within the past 6 races, and Rezify rounding out the top 10 with 78 points to his name. So yeah, it's really close between those top two at the front, and then it's kind of it's almost like it's battles, but it's in pairs. So you've got the top two of Felipe and Koskap 7 points splitting each other. Luke and Lifebout, 15 points splitting them, but Lifebout has been on a very good charge as of recent. Larkin, T-Brum and Taupe, as well as RJ, all battling for that 5th position from what it looks like. Well, you can't really rule out Larkin for that top 3 spot. I said there's still 4 races left to go and he's 30 points behind Luke, so anything can happen. Yeah, I suppose we'll wait and see what goes on within this for this evening around Zandvoort. Probably a track that would favour more towards the likes of Felipe and, well, for both of the top 2 championship leaders. But I know Felipe does really like this circuit.
He's pad aim, yes, isn't he? So that is a natural response. Licks go straight on at turn 1. So he will not be the first start up. Yeah, I really like this track, barring or neglecting the fact that I crashed out at it not half an hour ago in Division 1. It is good fun. And I think some of the turns 1, turn 3, and I think turn 8, you can really lean into the braking zones of your own ABS, which makes it a very nice track for those inclined. Larkin's on fastest with the first lap of the session with a 1:10.9. Felipe lowers that bar by less than a tenth of a second at 10.8. I would expect, I don't know if you would agree with me, pole to be somewhere around the mid-10s, a 10.5, maybe a 10.4. I'm just speculating based on D1, but I think we'll see a few times quicker than that 1:10.8.
Yeah, I reckon mid-10, I reckon a 0.6, if I'm honest with you. I know when we was doing it in Division 1, there wasn't really too many improved times after that, like maybe just a couple of hundredths there here and there, but yeah, I'd be expecting around a 10.6, 10.5 for pole this evening. Well, never mind. Never mind. Lifebout 10.497, completely just rolling out exactly what I've said. And I've also been given a little bit of information for you here, Jake. It's a wet race.
Rain. A full wet race.
That's what I've been told by Nolan.
That is dramatic news. I wonder who's running a full dry and who's running a full wet and who's running a hybrid setup. Sweet Ross has popped in P4. Only 4 drivers in the 1 minute 10. That surprises me. What's Luke doing? He's not on a quick lap. He's going slowly. So I think Koskappen is going to be our next one. Let's have a look. Is Koskappen ABS? Do you know?
I don't think he is. I could be wrong,
Let's have a look
but I
at
don't
turn
think he
3
is.
here. Yeah, that looked like a no ABS line through turn 3 there. Just letting the car run a little bit wide so we can pick up the throttle and not snatch that inside front. And then you've got these kinky bends, reminding me of my absent date from tonight, all those kinks. And then we've got a little flick left and then a flick right down into 6th, 5th in the race. You can use the curb on the exit to settle the car if you make a mistake, but it's a treacherous business out there. And then this one, we'll take a really high line in. Just kiss the apex and then pick up the throttle nice and early. Koskappen lets the car go a little too far wide there, bring it to the left hand side, this very short first DRS straight, cut the inside, and then you can use the curb on the inside there to help rotate the car just a tiny bit, but Koskappen stays well clear. This is a very tricky one. I think it's turn 15. Easier on a wheel because you can really just flick the car in. It's all commitment or no commitment through there. You want to stay low through the banking, otherwise the car will bottom out and you'll scrub speed off. And Koskappen has a 10.8 dead, which puts him P2. And we have, I think, this championship threatened to be a dead rubber a couple of times, Jack, when Felipe had a 30-point lead and no one really was stepping out to challenge him. But now as Koskappen's picked it up, we have got a proper, juicy title battle on our hands, haven't we?
Yeah, no, we certainly do. And I'm hoping that these guys are going to be able to provide a very good title battle between each other. I mean, 7 points separating them with 4 races left to go kind of just sets up for an enthralling end to the season. Hopefully it doesn't end like a race or 2 before. But I suppose we'll wait and see. As I say, I think these two have been very good throughout the entirety of the season. Nolan especially. I'd more so, I'll say so, considering that Ben's been in a championship position before a couple times in previous seasons. You know, he's used to being he's used to challenging for titles and stuff like that. Nolan, this is his first time properly challenging for titles in a higher division. Of course, he did it for Division 4 at one point, but in this division, it's the first time I think we're seeing him challenge for a big title that I think he really wants to try and go for. So, yeah, I think he needs to just try and keep his head, not lose his head whatsoever, especially in like these last 4 races, because one mistake from either of them means that it's just going to be catastrophic for that entire championship. So I don't know. I said they both just got to keep their heads calm and composed. I mean, if it finishes the way it does at this moment for tonight, like, you know, both Ben and Nolan finishing in 2nd and 3rd, the gap then just drops to 4 points with 3 races left. So yeah, like I say, any sort of small margin that they can try and get ahead of each other with is going to help for this evening. But in terms of obviously what we're seeing out on track at the moment, right on board with Larkin sitting in 4th at the moment. He was up on his time. He's running out of ERS though towards the end of the lap, but across the line it comes, a 10.686 for the McLaren, up into 2nd position. Still not enough to best Lifebout though.
10 points in his last 4 races for Larkin. He's not having a great run of it. He's having a bit of a mare. Austria, he came to blows, I think, with both AlphaTauris, didn't he? First with Luke at turn 3, and then with Felipe at turn 5. He needs a break, does Larkin, but anyhow, both the championship's over. He's in a battle with Luke now, really, for P3 and Lifebout as well. And speaking of Luke, he's just about to finish his first flying attempt, or is he just? I think he's just starting it actually. Pardon me. Yes, he is. So, well, I've got nothing to say in that case. I think Darry's going to finish a lap. No, he's not. He's starting one as well. The game's lying to me, as always. So I'll go back to you so you can say something.
That's fine. I think Rex is going to... I was going to say Rex is going to be our next one to finish a lap, but he's actually just making his way into the pits. Miami also, just in case you guys are wondering, he has a qualifying ban. That's why he has retired early on, as I said, because of his antics from last week as Licks. Up in a P5 with a 10.867 for his first proper lap of the session. So not a bad time whatsoever. And that Scream also into the pits to retire from the session, which is very strange. I wonder if Scream also had a qualifying ban. I might have to have a check on that. But IRT Tote is around turn number 13, and from now around the banking of turn number 14 up towards the line. He comes DRS now wide open for the German. What time is he going to do? Is he going to better his time that he's done so far? And he has by 0.2 of a second up to P4, splitting the two championship contenders. And yeah, it's going to make that very, very interesting between these two guys. Luke coming across the line, P7, 10.872. So a lot of the guys in the 10.8s, you saw this in Division 1 with the 10.5s as well here, Jake. So I think it's going to be very close throughout the grid. Any sort of margin that they can get on each other, I think is going to matter for this evening. Dari up to the line, 11.6, considering he's starting in Division 1 this season. It's not looking good for him.
He's another one having a mare. That 10.8 club is starting to look very congested. I'll tell you who. Is Chris retires from the session. He becomes our third of the day. Lifebout is being very sweaty here. He's burned all of his fuel and then some. He started his lap with 1.6 laps of fuel. He's got a Alpine there, very much on the racing line, as he attacks turns 2 and 3. Not really a sequence of corners. You want to have your flow of thought interrupted, but Lifebout, with his aggressive fuel use, I think, so long as his dashboard is correct, and he has only got 1.2 laps of fuel in, is properly trying to wring every sinew out of this car as he can. And he's dropped it there. He's found the limits, and then he's gone beyond them. But he was a tenth and a half down that first sector anyway. I think that Alpine of... well, that would have been Chris. Would Chris have retired on track? Because Sweet was in the pit. So Chris retired on track, and that Alpine very much, you'd have to think, disturbed Lifebout's flow there.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. So, yeah, I think that could be something for the stewards after the race as well. I don't think Lifebout's going to be particularly too happy with that as well. I'm not sure what had happened with Chris. I've just seen him say in the Discord saying that he can't be bothered. I'm not sure what that was about. But RJ coming up towards the line now, 11.0, jumps up ahead of Rex, up to P9, as Felipe up to P3 on his time as well. Again, the two championship title rivals sitting in third and fourth respectively with each other. Larkin, I think, is on another lap now as well, 300ths up on his time. So we'll see what the McLaren's going to be able to do, see if he's able to best Lifebout and chuck it on the top of the front row. As he's making his way now through Sector 2, of course, the second DRS zone on the track. 2 DRS zones, this being, of course, as I said, the second one of the lap. We'll see what he is able to do at the end of the Sector 2 split. He's 700ths up on his time. So this is looking like it could be a pretty decent lap. It's his third sector. We need to see if he's going to be able to jump up ahead of Lifebout, or if it was the first sector. Second sector, as he goes around, goes a bit too deep, invalidates on his time. The curb then just chucked him and spit him out. Spins it around. Not the first time we're going to see it this season. Probably not going to be the last time we're going to see it for tonight. I also did say I was going to say that about him on stream, so he's probably going to have a little bit of a chuckle out of it. But RJ is making his way around the final corner, I think, just to make his way into the pits. Nolan going to be doing the same as well. So got a bit of a low period at the moment. Lifebout, as I said, with just the one lap he's done so far, still enough to keep him on pole by a tenth, or just under 0.2 of a second, as I said, from Larkin in second. Very, very tight knit between the second and fourth, separated by 0.06 of a second. And then from fifth all the way down to P9 with RJ, you know, again, they're separated by just over 0.2 of a second. So very, very tight knit at the moment, Jake. Darry still, as I say, it's really surprising to me that he's only done an 11.6 so far, and I'm surprised we haven't seen more from him.
I think he's got nothing to fight for, and you've got nothing to fight for. You've got no reason to try, have you? I think it's just that second season syndrome. He's just kind of going through the motions a little bit, aren't you, Darry? He's probably not touched the game for a week, and he's just rocked up, done a lap, and be like, yeah, that'll do. The Scream retires from... sorry, not retires. He's already retired. He's left the session, so hopefully he gets back in. Otherwise, we're down to just 13, which would be even less starters than Division 1 had. Either no one likes Jeddah, or everyone doesn't like F122. I know where my money's going, and it's not the first one.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. So, Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Jeddah next week. Probably one of my favourite circuits on the game. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that's going to go down for next week. Even just for comms for Division 2, I think there's still going to be a very interesting race to say the least. But of course, enough about Jeddah because that's next week. We're around Zandvoort, which is this week, and running on board with the American of Rex, who looks like he's left IRT. So, yeah, Rex looking like he's a little bit of a free agent at the moment. So hopefully, the American can find something very soon. But we're right on board with him for his final lap around Zandvoort. I don't know if he's actually going to be going now because he's kept it in 8th gear, going very slow. So he might actually be burning some fuel and going for a second lap afterwards. So it's going to be our championship leader, Mr. Ariel Felipe. We're right on board with him for his final lap around the Zandvoort City circuit, and we'll see what he is able to do, see if he's able to best Lifeboat and Larkin up in front of him, down in towards turn number 1, down into 3rd gear, using auto gears, so it's already putting him basically that automatically and a bit of a disadvantage through turn 3 and turn number 4, now the banking of turn 4, try and get the best traction as possible. Kept it very tight through there, interestingly enough, so I wonder if that will actually give him a bit of extra time through that. But now coming at the downhill section, he's 800ths down on his time, dips a wheel into the grass to try and get a best run as possible through the banking. Still a little bit down on his time from the looks of things. A couple cars just moving out of the way on the right hand side there, also clipping onto the curb ever so slightly as well. Now not taking as much of an entry as what I would have thought he would have done, but up to the DRS zone now and up towards the end of the second sector split. He's a 10th down on his time, so this is not looking good for Felipe at the moment. Absolutely smacks the curb on the inside there. Needs to hope that Alfa Romeo can get out of his way, which I think is licks, and in fact he does back off of his time. So Felipe not looking like he's going to be improving on his time. Koskappen just behind him is going to be starting another lap very soon, and I wonder if Felipe is going to be a bit annoying because I think that was Rex in fact in front of him that was blocking him. So hopefully I wonder if we'll see a still support of that afterwards. And yeah, Nolan into the pits to retire from the session for that, Jake.
Well, I think he's still in a good position. He's in P3, he's ahead of Koskappen. The onus is on Koskappen to improve. We'll see where he is when he comes to us first sector split. Lifebout didn't go for it on his first lap, or he made a mistake in sector 1 because he backed off, and he's now going to go again, presumably with even less fuel than he had last time. Koskappen 200 down in the first sector. He needs a 500th swing to come his way versus his previous lap in the last 2 sectors to edge out Felipe. Is anyone else close to finishing? Luke's into the pit lane. Sui Ross, I think, is going to be next across the line. He's going to be followed by Larkin. Luke retires in the pit lane. Sui Ross will be, I think, our first finisher, proper finisher. What can he do? Is he going to be into the 10s? He is. A 10.6 goes P2. Larkin improves to a 10.6 as well. Koskappen is 600s up, so he could dislodge Felipe. Felipe sliding down the order a little bit here, and behind Koskappen we've got a Williams as well on a lap. Koskappen doesn't improve, bottled the last sector. Taupe goes P7. RJ's not improving. Rex is not improving, or he's finished rather. Darry's going to be the last one on a lap. Lifebout is 2/10 down, so he's not improving either. So I think it's just Darry we have left to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say Larkin actually just started his final lap, but ended up spinning on the banking as well, so he's not going to make an improvement. And Sui Ross on the front row so far, but Darry, like you say, he's the only one left to complete his final lap. I don't think Rex is going to be going for yet another lap through that one. So we'll stick on board with Darry and see what he's able to do. And yeah, it's not looking particularly too quick. And no, in fact, it's 2/10 up on his time. He could still jump up ahead of Rex though.
He's half a second off Rex. He needs a big final sector, I think. Darry is just giving up a little bit.
It's still possible though. You never know. Darry's just making his way around the final corner now. As I said, it could have been the 3rd sector where it did let him down significantly. Up to Lords of Line though, it was a little bit closer than what I think was a bit anticipated. But yeah, Taupe I think is actually going to be our final one. He's 10th and a half up on his time actually. This is an improvement, and it's a 10.7 for the IRT driver. Very nicely done from Taupe to chuck it up into P4, and that will be the end of qualifying. We're just waiting for Rex to come across the line or come into the pits. Just if he just comes across the line, it would just be done and done there, but I think he's just going to come into the pits anyway. But yeah, Lifebout only needed 1 lap, and the 10.497 chucked him straight on pole with that first lap there, Jake.
That is a marker, isn't it? Lifeboat. We'd seen him succeed a bit like T-Brum at the wheel tracks. This isn't particularly a wheel track. He's just on another level now. Lifeboat. He's very much a D1 pace driver. I think he wouldn't have got particularly high up the D1 order, but I think he is a level above the rest of this D2 grid. There is such a split between the bottom of D1 and the top of D2 for the most part. Lifeboat on pole from Sweeros in second in the Alpine. Larkin and Taupe fill out row 2. Our championship contenders Felipe and Koskapen on row 3. Lix and Felipe's very much rear gunner at this point. Luke on row 4. Then RJ and Rex. Darry is the last to have set a time. And then Miami, Chris and the Scream, who all did not set laps. And I did not see that Scream rejoin the session. So I think we will be having a 13-car grid. That means once we get one retirement, and we probably will, everyone is guaranteed points if they make it to halfway round lap 32. Lap 33, sorry.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, well, I was just having a look at the Division 1 times to see if I can find where that would have actually put Lifebout. It would have been between me and Slash, so he would have been behind me and in front of Slash in P12 respectively had he if he was in Division 1. So yeah, we may see him in there next season, obviously for when the new game does come out, because I don't think we're doing another season on this game, considering that we're almost at the end life cycle of it. And yeah, I mean, we're only having 14 turning up, and we forgot that it's full wets. It is actual full wets. It's not intermediate. That's definitely full wets.
End me. I'd rather have gone on my date. Let me just whip out my laptop and crack on with Football Manager, because this is going to be so boring. I shouldn't say that. I should hype up the product. League of Europe is the best league on PlayStation. And we're going to have a cracking race ahead of us. But we're not really, are we? It's going to be long. Shall we ask if Nathan wants to join the commentary box?
Could do at this point if he wants to. Then he's more than welcome to join us. There's space. But let's have a look. So yeah, everybody is on a set of the full wet tyres. No, they're not. Lifeboat's on inters and Chris is on inters. So I don't understand why they've gone on inters, because that's definitely full wet. Sweeros is spinning around all over the place, and he's also just hit Rex. We said this last week. They need to be careful on the formation lap, and Sweeros off at the start of it ended up just spinning around. I don't know why he's done it, or why it's happened again. But we've said to drivers that they need to calm down on the formation lap. If you saw last week what happened with Luke, he kind of went off track, spun back on track, and plowed into the side of somebody, which then kind of just caused a bit of a pile up into turn 1 around Austria. So yeah, Sweeros kind of just done the same for this evening. There's an AlphaTauri that's gone around, speaking of Luke, going around out of the exit of the downhill section. But yeah, it means that Sweeros and Rex are both starting on some very cold tyres in the rain. It's not going to be the nicest thing to see whatsoever. It means that Lifebout and Larkin are going to have a bit of an opportunity. Larkin more so, because it's not intermediate weather, surely. Surely it's looking like it's full wet.
It could be intermediate once the track's been run on for a while, because you can have full wet rain but intermediate track conditions if the track's being run on the game. But it does look full wet as far as I can see. You can guarantee after last week Felipe has gone and taken the lead on formation up purely to aggravate me, but I will not stoop to such depths. I commend his whatever it is. Anyway, I think Larkin wins this race, is what I'm going to say.
If it stays the way that it is at the moment, I think Larkin does win this as well. I think if it is the case that it is Inters, I think Lifebout's got a very good shot. But we have got the 5 red lights for round number 14 of 17 around Zandvoort. Away we go. Taupe gets a drive-through from 4th position, so that's even worse of an indicator for him. And look at the traction that Larkin got out of his box. It's definitely not intermediate tyres. Larkin up into the lead of the race. Nolan going to be jumping up into second, up ahead of Lifebout. Both side by side of each other. A little bit of contact though. They made contact out of turn 1 last week. Hopefully tries to avoid it again for this week. Nolan going to go around the outside now of turn number 4. Relatively clean start between everybody as well. Sweeros and Taupe also side by side of each other, as Lifebout and Nolan once again very close as Taupe Tope again, now going down the inside of Nolan, coming through the S section. Oh, bounces over the curb, goes Nolan. But so does his teammate. And that's a massive collision. There's got to be a safety car that's probably going to come out. And it is a full course safety car. It allows those guys that started on the Inters, Lifebound Chris, to, well, come in, because I'm surprised they started on those intermediates.
That could have ended any one of a million different ways, that incident, and it's Felipe was going over the grass. He properly got some airtime there in the AlphaTauri. There were 3 or 4 drivers that were side by side at various points heading up that curvy straight. It could have ended any which way. It was Tope in the end who took himself out, I think, and speared his way into the barrier on the right hand side. I say this does give Lifebound the chance to come in, but maybe he's going to double down because he thinks if I pit, my race is ruined. If I stay out, I can at least hope it might get better, especially if the rain is lightening up. Larkin's coming. Larkin's coming in for Inters. I can only presume. Cappen's in as well. These can't all be damaged, surely. They're coming in for Inters. The AlphaTauris and Sweet Ross have played this one way. Dari as well, and those behind them. This is giving Chris a net P2. Presumably that was why they picked Inters, because on the forecast it said like rain's easing up in 15 minutes into the race or so. Perhaps Jeff is now giving that message, or whatever his name is, Mark, over the radio. So maybe that is why, because with the safety car to just slow the race down a bit, and there's a promise of the rain lightening up, they're seeing an opportunity to get ahead of the curve a little bit, and maybe perhaps Chris and Lifebound played a blinder.
They probably have done. We'll wait and see, especially because a lot of people just pit for a set of the intermediate tyres. So, yeah, I'm just surprised because Larkin had such a good getaway. It doesn't look like it's lighting up either. So, I don't know. I suppose we'll wait and see a couple laps time. Maybe when the safety car comes in, it will show that either the rain has lightened up, or it's still going to be continuing the same way that it is, and then the wet tyres are still probably going to be the best tyre. I don't know. We've either played a blinder of a strategy or not.
Some weather report info from our sources.
See if we can try and do that. Yeah, go for it. So whilst Jake is going to be doing that, I'm probably going to be popping into the party and having a look to see what the weather is going to be looking like, and why both Larkin and Miami have made that pit stop, as well as Koskap and Rex and RJ. It was a very good start from Larkin, very sort of clean start all around. Nolan didn't manage to get ahead of Lifebound. It looked like he had the opportunity of doing so, but didn't manage to in the end. Luke had a very good start as well, and both of the AlphaTauris, from what it looked like, just both hopped over the curb, and Tope just saying in the chat that there was a whole ocean on track. So yeah, it doesn't look as if it's going to be dry enough, but we'll find out from our source now. Jake, what have they said?
So Jeff is telling the drivers Inters are the better tyre, and the second half of the race is dry.
Oh.
So, armed with that information, I'm struggling to see why Felipe, Luke, Sweet Ross, Dari, and Scream and Licks have stayed out on wets. It seems like for those guys. Lifebound drops it under the safety car, and he's into the wall. And, oh dear! And I think he's got some damage. It's very light damage, but he's going to plummet down to 13th place. I was about to 12th place because RJ got an illegal overtake of actually a few of them. Larkin and Rex got illegal overtakes as well there. What I was going to say is, for those on full wet still, the top 6 now, it feels like short-term gain for long-term pain, but Lifebound has evidence that perhaps if you can't deal with the pain, there's no point in hanging around for the gain. So perhaps it is better to just be on the right time at the right time. Safety car in this lap, back to you.
Yeah, we'll see what's going to go down then. So both of the AlphaTauris leading it 1 and 2 at the moment. Sweet Ross down into 3rd after obviously getting disqualified on that formation. That meant that he started on some very, very cold tyres. Dari up into 4th after we was absolutely slandering him about his qualifying. He's had a very good start in the race. Scream in 5th with Licks in 6th at the back of the wet runners. We're going to see now. This is where we're going to test and see if the wets are better than the intermediate tyres once Nolan gets us on to that restart. And Let's see when Nolan's going to opt to go. He has gone now out of the exit of the banking. Very good restart from him. Luke also just trying to play a little bit of fiddle as well as Lifeboat and Koskappen switching positions. In fact, Lifeboat into the pits. He must have picked up some sort of damage, especially coming into the pits. But it looks as if it does look as if the rain has kind of eased up a bit more. Rex didn't manage to get a move done on Koskappen in the end. Had to just stay behind him for the time being. As I say, this is where we're going to see if the Inters are better than the wet compound tyre. The rain has lightened up from the looks of things. So I think it's looking like the Inters could be a very good shout if those guys didn't pit. As all, that is a Alfa Romeo that went in towards the wall. That was Licks having a massive oversteer moment coming through the S's and went straight onto the side of the wall and probably picked himself up from front left plate damage from there as well, Jake.
Yeah, you can't afford to make these kind of mistakes where, especially Licks, in case he's known he's going to have to make an extra pit stop anyway. As Larkin passed his Chris there. That's an Inter versus Inter battle. Chris was the one who started on the Inters. He was the lead Inter runner. That's now Larkin. He's nabbed that P6. But yeah, very costly mistake for Licks because he's going to have to make the extra stop to Inters as well. Unless perhaps our top 5 plus Licks are thinking they can do wet to dry, which I think will just be tragically slow. If I'm honest with you, it is a long pit lane here. You do want to minimise stops, but with the safety car, I don't know why they didn't take it. Felipe's lead 1.2 seconds. Luke is very much going to be playing rear gunner here. Ross is into the pit lane. He's bailing on those full wets. The others are toughing it out. As I just saw someone going into the wall in the background, and it was, I think it was an Alfa Romeo, but I don't think it was Licks. It might be. Oh, it was Licks. He looked too far back for that, but yeah. 1.3 for Felipe, and Luke 1.1 ahead of Darry, who is showing his turtle speed once again in the race now, and Larkin is sizing up the screen.
Yeah, so this is where, as I said, this is going to be the test of where we're going to see if the Inters are better, and it is looking so much better than those wet tyres. Larkin just even able to drive just on the wet part of the track. Just the grip that he's got in comparison to those wet tyres, it is definitely intermediate conditions, and these guys are all pitting under that safety car. Well, they've definitely pulled a blinder of that now. How quickly is Larkin going to catch up to those top 3? Of course, we'll separate in a second between each other. You know, as I say, Luke's going to be trying to play a bit of rear gunner for Felipe, shall I say. But Darry is starting to close up slightly to the back of Luke, and surely these wet tyres are going to be starting to overheat very soon because they're designed for it to be when it's raining quite hard. They can, of course, try and drive on the wetter part of the track, but at the same time, it's still not going to be enough for them to keep their tyres in check. Darry into the pits, so it means now Larkin has free reign, and that fastest lap indicator shows those Inters are significantly better than the wet tyres, and it means that Larkin, as I say, has now got a bit of free track to just close up to the back of Luke. I reckon probably in about 2 laps, Jake, we'll see Larkin battling for the lead with Nolan, I reckon.
I should think so. I mean, Larkin 23.9, 24.1 for Felipe, 22.9 for Lifebout. But yeah, Felipe was only 2 tenths slower than Larkin on the last lap, but that delta between Larkin and Felipe is only going to grow lap by lap by lap as it becomes increasingly intermediate conditions. I mean, he's catching Luke quite quickly. You'd think into turn 1, into Tarzan on the next lap, that will be Larkin's opportunity. If he doesn't get him on traction at some point earlier on, Koskappen and Scream behind them battling away. Scream's really struggling on the full wets, and I think that's evidence as Larkin passes Luke on traction out of the hairpin there and into sector 3. I don't know any of the corner numbers. I'm a terrible commentator this week, but that was much quicker than I was expecting. I said Tarzan, it turned out to be 3 corners, and I'm excited to see that Scream get swallowed up now.
Yeah, so he's now got Rex all over the back of him as well. See if when Rex is going to be able to go for the move. Probably not into the final corner, but out of the final corner, I reckon the traction that he's going to get in comparison to Williams is actually a bit worse than what I was expecting. But yeah, that Scream I think is going to be swallowed up whole from the rest of the guys. And in fact, the German does do the smart thing and just makes his way into the pits. Larkin with the fastest lap now though with a 22.5. Said it only needed 2 laps, and he is now all over the back of Nolan to fight for this lead of the race. Luke couldn't really do that much. He's going to try and play a bit more of a rear gunner for Koskappen. I think he's more worried about him than Larkin, and I think it gives, you know, if Larkin passes Nolan, he can kind of just try and drag him along as best as he possibly can. So sticking on board with the battle here for the lead of the race, because Nolan really is just getting pushed along by Larkin now, and you can see it. So I think Larkin, he's definitely on for a win for this evening. It's just whether he's going to be able to capitalise on the change from when it goes from wets to dry, and of course if there's any safety cars as well, could blow that part out of the water. But Nolan goes defensive, coming around the loop on towards the DRS section, and Larkin sweeping it around the outside. Not much that Nolan can do, and already now up into the lead of the race. Larkin, after 7 laps now, back towards the front end of the grid. Koskapper, though, all over the back of Luke to try and eye up a move coming in towards the start of sector 3, but I don't think that he's going to be able to do anything. There's a little tap in the back there for a bit of a bump pass. Luke's going to go defensive in towards the final corner, and I don't think we're going to see Koskapper go for a move. It could now allow Rex to try and go for something as Luke goes into the wall and takes each other out. Luke out of the race. Koskapper, no front wing. Safety cars come out once again. Nolan is going to be laughing at the sight of that.
I was on board with Koskapper. I don't know if you were, but I think Luke just got a bad exit, and then he was kind of in the middle of the track, and Koskapper wasn't really sure what to do. I think he was a bit surprised by how much grip he had. Scream speeding under the pit, safety car there. I think he was surprised by how much of an advantage he had, and he just hit the back of Luke and wiped him out. And as soon as you lock together like that, there's nothing you can do. I don't think it was really anyone's fault, but that's a consequence, really. When you've got a car that's 3-4 seconds that quicker than another car, you're going to misjudge each other's speed. I think that was what it was from Koskapper. No one did anything wrong. It was just a misunderstanding as much as anything. Does Felipe pit this lap and give up all of that track position? You would think so, because at worst he's probably going to come out behind RJ. But I don't know. I feel like Felipe in these situations might have a tendency to double down and think, well, the safety car will help him get to the dry without needing to make a pit stop. So I'm intrigued as to what he's going to do here.
I think it depends on when it dries up. If it dries up, like you say, before the end of that safety car, then yeah, we may as well double down, stay on those wets, get in a P2 when it goes to dry conditions. If it's going to be raining until like lap 20, lap 21, he may as well pit. He's as you say, the worst is going to happen. He's going to come up behind RJ. He's still going to be in front of his championship rival. So either way, it's a win-win for him if he stays out or if he doesn't. So yeah, in the pits he comes. I think it was the smartest decision to do. As I say, he's going to come up behind RJ. Should still come out in front of Sweeross. If not, will probably be between Sweeross and Dari. But I think from the looks of things, he should still be out in front of the Alpine. But they will not be under Delta anymore. Yeah, Nolan very clear in front of... Oh, I don't know if it's very clear in front of the Alpine, actually. He's just coming out of the pit lane now. The Alpine's coming around turn number 1. You can see the AlphaTauri there. Sweeross actually tried his best to try and get ahead of Nolan, but having a bit of a hard slide through turn 1 meant that Nolan could come out in P6. So, fresh intermediate tyres for our championship leader, and still up ahead of his championship rival, who's down into 10th place after that collision with Luke.
Yeah, ironically, his teammate's demise has sort of rectified the error that the gigantic error I think that was brewing from Felipe in staying out. I think had Luke not brought out a safety car with Koskapper, Felipe could have found himself 20 seconds behind Larkin and the lead of the race, and Koskapper, if he had made that move cleanly, by the time it went to dry tyres. So I think that has spared him doubly so. It's saved him a pit stop, and it's also saved him because Koskapper, having taken himself out, is down into 10th place.
So, everyone now want to set the intermediate tyres? As I say, I think it is just dependent on when... you come to me at the worst time, Jack, I can't lie. I think it is dependent on when it's going to end up drying up, and I don't see it drying up for quite some time. I'd say around lap 20, lap 21, I think is when we're going to see it actually dry up in the end. So, I don't know. Larkin's in a very good spot. I'll tell you what though, Rex has been, well, phenomenal with his strategy as well. Up into 2nd position and looking for his first LOE podium since, if I'm not mistaken, from when we was doing in Division 3, I think since Silverstone in F1 2021.
I've got no idea. I can't remember what I had for breakfast. That's a lie. I don't have breakfast. But I've got no idea. I can't even remember. Well, I can't remember my own Zandvoort race other than dying. And greatly irritating the Rocco Reggie for real. Lifebout. I'm intrigued to see what he can do on this restart. He's on the same tyres as everyone else, more or less. Although our top 5 are on 8-lap tyres. Felipe's on 1-lap tyres, and those behind 5, 4, 3, 2, 5, and 2 for Lifebout. So this could be such a blessing for Felipe if he can pick off RJ. And just try and go through them one at a time. He's got a good shot as Lifebout and Licks catch up very late, which means we get a very late safety car in this lap call. Larkin will back right off to take them through turn 13, as you educated me earlier on. And when's he going to go? You're going to be an unwise man, I think, in the rain to drop it during the banking. I think Larkin will just go, play it safe. He'll go late when the track straightens out, or when he's certain he can light up those rear tyres without the car spinning from under him. And he's gone now, but it makes him very predictable to Rex, who tucks him behind Slipstream and ERS, but Larkin has got enough of an edge, I think, that Rex has nothing he can do about that. Behind them, look at Felipe up the inside of RJ, and then almost up the inside of Miami as well. RJ's going to go around the outside of turn 1. It'll switch to the inside of the little kink of 2, and you've got to be so careful when you're side by side. It's very easy to cause contact. Koskappen's gained place as well on Darry, and Darry's going to lose a second to Licks coming through turn 3. RJ could lose another place here to Swede Ross, but that was a very clean restart as Felipe's now attacking Miami for P4.
Yeah, very close between those guys as well. Almost going into the back of Miami, going down the hill as well. But yeah, very, very clean restart from everybody throughout. Swede Ross still eyeing up a move as that screamed up in a tyre into the grass. That's also Koskappen going around taking Lifebout with him. Both of those guys having yet another spin. And it means that Lifebout, I don't know if Lifebout picked up any damage from that. I don't know if he hit the wall or what. But yeah, Koskappen, I think he tried to go on the inside of that screen through the fast right-hander. Not a place you really want to be trying to send it because, I mean, well, that's the consequence of it. He's now down into the last points position. And again, if Nolan's got the stream on, which I believe he does, his smile is going to be going from one side of his face to the other at this point. Especially considering now he's putting the pressure on Miami and Chris out in front of him. Larkin and Rex have both had a very good restart from the pair of them. So, yeah, they've kind of just run away from the rest of those guys. Chris and Miami also with each other as that's someone into the pits. That's, in fact, that's Scream into the pits. So he must have picked up damage on that restart. Oh, no, sorry, he had a drive-through. He picked up a drive-through, didn't he? So he's going to be serving that drive-through penalty, which puts him to the back of the grid and brings Koskappen and Lifebout up, respectively. In fact, Lifebout's actually jumped up ahead of Licks. I didn't see that move go down, though.
I did not. Actually, no, I did. I caught the end of it. I can't remember what corner it. There's evidence to my memory. I know I saw it. I can't remember what on earth it looked like, though. But Lifebout did pass Licks. Felipe's not hustling Miami quite like he was on the previous lap, is he? He's sticking close to the McLaren, but he's not giving him too much trouble either. Larkin is now over a second clear, not that DRS plays into this at all. Rex has got really good pace. He's stretching his legs on Chris as well, and Chris himself seems unthreatened by Miami, who's unthreatened by Felipe. They're all just kind of minding their own business now. As Koskappen passes Licks into the chicane. That is turn 11. I have no idea. I'm going to not pretend that I know the corner numbers. Let's have a look at the ERS because it is, you tend to not really use it up too much in the rain. Larkin's down to 55%, similar for Rex. 75 for Chris, 78 for Miami. Felipe is sitting pretty on a fat 90 there. As Darry and Lifebout side by side going around Tarzan there. Lifebout's trying to make up another move, and Darry's not going to give this one up despite the pace difference between these two. He's going outside of 2. Lucky he didn't tip Lifebout to a spin there. Switch to the inside for 3. Well defended by Darry. Keeps hold of P8, but Lifebout will be getting frustrated as he gets tremendous traction there. He's going to wheel to wheel through the kinks. This could end in an absolute airplane crash. Lifebout's going to try and go around the outside. I think they're ghosting through each other a little bit desync. Maybe I thought I saw some clipping. Lifebout's around the outside still, and onto the bumpy curve, just about avoids it. This is tremendous racing from both of them. No quarter given, but respect tremendously. And Miami and Felipe are in close combat as well, ahead of these two. But Lifebout does come out on top in the end, as Miami does on Felipe just about.
Yeah, very good battle in between Lifebout and Dari through that whole first sector and even the second sector as well. What a battle that was. Obviously a little bit of bumping between each other, but I suppose it's very difficult not to, especially in these kinds of conditions. Now I think we're going to see Nolan go for a move on Miami now down in towards turn number 1. He's using his ERS, Miami's using his ERS to stay up ahead of the AlphaTauri. Nolan wants to get past. He's not going to send it in towards turn number 1, is he? No, he's not going to be able to do so. Miami just breaking at a nice bit of a distance, but he gets a better traction out of turn number 1 in comparison to that McLaren in front of him, almost going into the back of the McLaren, pushing him through those first couple of corners. Now could put him a little bit vulnerable to RJ, but let's have a look and see if he gets a better traction coming out of the banking section. He definitely looked like he did in comparison to the McLaren. And I've got to say as well, Chris is starting to drop back from those guys and is now being caught up by Miami and Nolan. The thing for Miami is, again, he's just not got to lose his head that Nolan is so close to the back of him. And same with Nolan, he can't just lose his head and try and just go for a move where he just at any given point possible, as he tries to send it up the inside around the looping section on Miami. And again, I said you can't lose your head, and he wants to try and get this move done ASAP, which is understandable, but you've got to try and do it in a bit of a safer manner. Probably not the best corner to go ahead and do it, as Koskappen now getting past Dari as well through turn number 11. Lifebout all over the back of Sweet Ross for P7. Considering that Sweet Ross started in second position, it's not been a very good race for the Alpine. One Alpine has had an absolute star of a race, which is Chris, up into third from, I think he started down in 12th in the end, or 13th on the grid, as in fact Sweet Ross is now getting overtaken by Lifebout down the inside in towards turn number 1. Not much of a fight. I think Sweet Ross is going to put up. Lifebout now up into 7th position. Next up he's got to overtake is RJ out in front of him. Miami though, I think he's going to start putting a bit of pressure on Chris.
I wonder if Felipe will get a little more nervy now, feel a little more eager to get past Miami, because he'll see now Lifebout on his delta. He'll know there's only RJ between himself and Lifebout, who I think Lifebout is the one that, from what I've heard him speak of, that Felipe is particularly worried about, more so than Koskappen, because he knows how much quicker Lifebout is than anyone in this division. The fact he's cutting through these drivers like a knife through hot butter in these conditions on this track tells you just how quick Lifebout is. And look how slow Chris is though, because RJ's really joining the battle here. Is Felipe going to have another send possibly? No, he's not. He's going to bide his time still, but Chris is looking really slow. RJ's joined this battle. Felipe is tethered by a string to the back of Miami, and Lifebout's just eased up to the back of all of them. Chris is, he's the cork in the bottle here. I think he's not got the pace anywhere near, as you said earlier on, of Larkin or Rex ahead of him, and he's a bit of a bottleneck.
Yeah, it certainly is. So someone's just made their way into the pits. That's in fact Koskappen into the pits, as well as Licks. And he's going on. It's that dries. It's a set of the hard compounder tyre. Probably not the best one to go on. Probably could have gone on a set of the mediums, but onto dries. So I wonder. Well, we're going to see if the dry tyres are going to be quicker. That Scream also made his way into the pits, so I wonder, are we going to see our race leaders make their way into the pits at the end of this lap as well? If so, Miami could be in a little bit of trouble because of his teammate, of course, being out in front of him. He's going to have to double stack with Larkin. It means he could lose position to Felipe, to RJ, and to Lifebout, respectively, behind him. So, yeah, unless Miami probably stays out for another lap, the rain definitely looks like it's almost stopped coming down as well. It's still there ever so slightly, but yeah, it's definitely almost stopped raining as well. So I'm keeping an eye on those hard tyres in comparison to the inters from Koskappen to Dari. I think that's really going to be the tell as to when it's dry enough to go on a set of the dry tyres, and when the inters are going to be the tyre that's basically null and void. Is everybody coming into the pits? Larkin is in, Rex is in, Chris is in, Miami hits the wall, and they're having a bit of a race almost going into the pit lane. RJ almost giving a tap to Nolan, making his way into the pits, but everybody now into the pits. Larkin on a set of the medium compounder tyre, Rex set of mediums. DRS has been enabled, so yes, it does mean that it is now dry conditions. Where does Koskappen come out in relation to all of these guys? I think he was a little bit behind them before anyway. As look, Miami, now on the back of that train that he was leading originally, or was sit behind Chris that entire time because of that double stack he had with Larkin.
Koskapper is going to have such a tire advantage over these guys in terms of the temperature onto this lap. Lifebout nips past RJ through turn 2 and launches himself on the back of Felipe, who's the only one who pitted on that lap to go to hard tyres. He's played a bit of a boo-boo there, I think, because he's going to have awful warm-up, really awful warm-up. He's going to leave himself vulnerable first to Lifebout, and I think RJ as well, because with it still being a semi-damp track, the warm-up's going to be even worse than it ordinarily would be. I think the tyre difference between the hard and medium is worse than it ordinarily would be. He's bending off well now. We have got DRS enabled. Is Lifebout going to fancy going early and going hard into this chicane, or is he going to buy his time? I think he's just actually trying to get some temperature into those tyres with a little weave there down the straight.
Yeah, it definitely is. So we'll stick on board with this battle here with Lifebout and Nolan. As you say, Nolan, the one that he was really worrying about was Lifebout, not Koskapper. And Koskapper now up into 9th respectively though, so not bad for him whatsoever. But here we go, look at that. Look at the run Lifebout had going through the banking. DRS open, ERS being used, purple sector 3. Past our championship leader, now up into the lead, up into 4th position. Nolan now down into 5th. RJ right behind him as well, putting the pressure on the sister team of the AlphaTauri. Miami, though, surprisingly, has dropped back considerably. So I wonder if he did pick up damage from hitting that banking on his way into the pits.
He would have had a slight 1.5 second hold with Larkin. Doesn't matter how close or far you are from your teammate. If you put on the same lap, as Chris has made a big mistake there and Lifebout nips through for P3. Yeah, no matter how far you are, if you put on the same lap, there's a slight stagger with your pit crew, which means you always get held, even if you're 8 or 9 seconds behind them coming in. So that will have been why Miami, and because they were so close with Felipe and RJ, that's why unfortunately that little stagger has cost him 2 places. But also very costly, that mistake from Chris, because Lifebout is now released into P3.
Yeah, he certainly is. I mean, I think it was just more the case that it looked like Miami was like very close to the back of RJ at one point when they came out of the pit. So it looked like he started to fall back quite considerably. But I'll tell you what, who's falling back quite considerably is Rex in P2, as RJ's going to try and go around the outside of Nolan in towards turn number 1. Lifebout setting the fastest lap with a 13.6. RJ trying to swoop it around the outside of our championship leader through turn number 1. Gets the door shut on him. Nolan keeps that P5 for the time being. Wants to try and extend this gap of his championship as much as possible, but RJ needs to try and help out his teammate as much as possible for these last 4 rounds. And don't forget, I think also the constructors, if I'm not mistaken, can it be won tonight by the AlphaTauris? I think it still can be. No, it can't. No, sorry, ignore me. It can't be won by tonight. There is a 55 point difference between the AlphaTauris and the Red Bulls. So it's already those two for the constructors battle. But yeah, RJ needs to try and get him moved on Nolan. And I think what's going to help him now is that Nolan has fallen out of DRS from Chris. I was saying that. I think Chris must have made another mistake because he's now back within DRS.
I think Felipe will be... I think it'll be more focused really on Chris head in right now than RJ behind or with that DRS gap, but he's going to have no choice now but to concede the position. Is so easy for RJ. 13-0 for Lifebout, and what's Felipe's PB? A 41, a second off the pace right now, and 7/10 slower than 6/10 slower than Larkin. Those hard tyres are not working. I think Felipe had this race handed to him a little bit, or his error was rectified. The error he made had been rectified by the safety car in staying out on the wet tyres, and now he's compounded it with another error in being the only person to go for the hard tyres. A couple of Ferrari-esque strategy blunders here, you might say. Am I being hard? Am I inviting a lengthy DM from Ariel Felipe after the race when he watches the stream back? Probably. But I think he's made 2 critical errors here in his choice of not pitting under the first safety car for Inters as most of the other drivers did, and then secondly for not going on to the mediums when it did dry up.
Yeah, no, I'm with you about that one. The second one for sure. See, the first one's still a little bit of a tough call, but yeah, definitely regarding the going on a set of the hards. I mean, to be fair to him, his championship rival Koskapper also went on a set of the hards. So I think the main thing is that he's just trying to cover him off, just to make sure that he stays up ahead of Koskapper as much as possible. I mean, he could have done that with a set of the mediums, but yeah, obviously going on a set of the hards means that that tyre is more durable. That is definitely going to be able to go to the end. Obviously, the mediums will still be able to go to the end anyway. But just for his peace of mind, he knows that those hards can definitely go to the end. It's just they're not going to come into play until maybe lap 34 at best for the hard compounded tyre. He dips a little wheel into the grass once again, just to try and get the best turning going down the hill. But Lifebout has gotten past Rex. Now Rex is under pressure from Chris, and already nearly 2 seconds of a gap between Rex and Lifebout. Lifebout is even starting to catch Larkin ever so slightly. I think the gap has been brought down by about 3 or 4 tenths in this lap alone. So Lifebout, he's on a charge, and he's still got the win in his sights for this evening. 15 more laps left to go when Larkin crosses the line now. And I think he's looking, if I'm not going to be mistaken here, Jake, is this Larkin's first win for this season if he does take it? No, it'll be his third.
It'll be his third. He won at Japan and at Bahrain, as Miami sizing up Ariel Felipe to turn 1, and I think he was almost in 2 minds there, Miami, whether to go to the move, and backed out just quick enough. And once again, for Felipe, the DRS is what's saving him ahead. Otherwise, I think he'd be by that McLaren. I'm just trying to do for you a live championship standings, and don't say I don't provide a service here. Felipe will currently have championship lead of 182 points. Koskapen will be 11 points behind at present on 171. Lifebout will rise to third with 140 points, so it'll be 42 behind Felipe. And remember, the last race of the season is a sprint race as well, so there's extra 2 points there, as Chris is having a look at Rex for P3, sorry. Luke will be a further 3 points behind Lifebout, 137. Larkin will be on 132. So 50 points will cover the top 5, with 89 points available. And Chris is now going to get the move done for on Rex. He briefly looks left, then switches to the right. He's got the inside to turn 1. Rex is going to make it easy for him though, but I think Chris with the inside line is going to get the work done, and he ended up spinning Rex round as well, and the other Alfa Romeo's also dropped it at the exit of turn 13, spinning in synchrony at different points of the track. They're different ends of the pit straight for the 2 Alfa Romeos. But yes, that hands an extra 2 points to Felipe and an extra point to Koskapen in my calculation.
Yeah, it certainly does. Lix is into the pits to chuck on a fresh set of mediums and probably fix his front wing as well. Tell you what, Nolan's doing a nice job on keeping up on the back of RJ throughout this entire start, throughout the rest of the dry period, unless of course another safety car comes out, which they probably could go on a set of softs from like lap 27 onwards, I would want to say. But yeah, I mean, as I say, Nolan's done a very good job, especially on a harder compounded tyre, with keeping up with the Red Bull out in front of him. And I said the hards are going to come into their own around lap 34 in comparison to those medium compounded tyre. But yeah, I think Nolan, he needs to just try and play this a bit smart, which he's doing at the moment. So keeping him within the DRS of RJ out in front of him, not using that ERS as much as the rest of the guys out in front. I mean, RJ's now flashing on the back of his car, and RJ doesn't have any DRSs. That's Rex going around. No, sorry, that's Lix going around as well. And that is a full safety car. Has he broke his front wing completely? He has indeed.
I will take that opportunity to go to the toilet. So it's with you, Jack. Have fun. Or let's have an ad break and you can eat in Chinese.
Yeah, can't do that, but no, it's fine. I'll just crack on. But yeah, off, you can go to the toilet. That's no problem at all. So yeah, I think Larkin's going to be very annoyed that safety car's come out. He had a very nice buffer to Lifebout, which is now going to be cut down. Now the question is, are any of these guys going to come in for a fresh set of tyres? Or are they all going to stay out and keep their tyres to the end? Zandvoort's not an easy track to overtake at, so I won't be surprised at all if everybody does opt to stay out, including the guys on the set of the hards. But at the same time, if you have the tyre advantage, there are more opportunities for an overtake to go down. Larkin stays out, Lifebout stays out, Chris is also staying out. RJ is coming in. Everybody else is coming in other than Felipe. He had the opportunity when he saw RJ pit to come in himself. He hasn't done it, and he stayed out on a set of the hards. Everyone behind him is going to be on a fresh set of medium compound tyre, including his title rival. The only good thing for him is that his title rival had to double stack with RJ as well. But yeah, that is not the smartest play from Felipe, because now he's going to be even more under pressure. Not just from RJ in Miami that he was battling with previously, but now from Darry, from Sweet Ross, and from Cos Kaplan.
Returned.
And yeah, Jake, you've missed a bit of a boo-boo here. Everybody pit from fourth downwards, other than Felipe.
A strategic boo-boo of the day. I know, beg to differ on the first one, but yeah, I think track position is king. But I think with a late safety car, people don't race in the same way they normally do. The way someone will approach you in wheel-to-wheel conflict when you're on lap 14 and it's just quite a standard race, no safety cars, whatever. It's very different from the way someone will approach wheel-to-wheel combat when they know they've got 8-lap fresher tyres and a compound softer after a safety car with 9 laps to go. I understand why Larkin and Lifebout have done it, being first and second. And of course you can't guarantee what people behind you are going to do, but for Felipe, that makes no sense. But we have been here before, Jack. We saw this at Imola, and when Felipe was on a very unfavourable tyre strategy after a safety car when he stayed out, and we thought that was the wrong thing to do. And then people behind him just kept crashing. And he ended up getting, I think, P3 after a steward's report. So it depends how nicely the people behind him play. RJ's not a particularly aggressive driver, in my estimation. So I don't know. It depends, I say, on who you got behind you. And I think Felipe, he's in a tricky spot here. But as I said, we've seen him survive these kind of situations before.
Not only that though, but he's his title rival's teammate. He's going to try and help his teammate out as much as possible. So, I mean, Nolan, he saw RJ pit in front of him. He had the opportunity of doing the same thing, but everybody else also pit, which is, you know, and he was the only one that didn't. He had the opportunity of following RJ in, but he didn't. Miami followed him in instead, and so did everybody else. So, yeah, Nolan, I think, is in a world of shit. I think is probably the best way to say it, with all of the guys behind him. So we'll see. The more that it stays out, I think the more it's gonna help Felipe though, purely because then they're not gonna have the best of those medium compounder tyre. They're just gonna be sitting under it with the safety car. Licks is still about 20 odd seconds away, but the safety car should be in at the end of this lap when they do cross the line to lap 27. So yeah, safety car should be in at the end of this lap anyway, even if Licks doesn't catch up. Everyone, if they finish now, will still be getting points up until unless they don't finish up to lap 33. Sorry, so you get past lap 33, then you know they can DNF to the heart's content if they're that far behind. Just don't do it out on track, because otherwise another safety car could be caused, and yeah, something else can happen from there. But yeah, as you were saying before, Larkin, Lifebout and Chris, understandably why they stayed out. Both Larkin and Lifebout, they had a very big lead in comparison to everybody else. I mean, Lifebout probably could have pit and either come out just behind Felipe or like just close to where Chris is anyway. He would have come out behind him for certain, but he probably could have pit to put a bit more pressure on Larkin. But at the same time, I think Larkin's probably already put under that much pressure from seeing the pace that Lifebout had on those medium tyres. I mean, as you say, he was just picking through people left, right and centre to the point where he is now in second position. And, well,
I'd
we'll
say
see if
arguably
Larkin...
favourite for the win.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We'll see if Larkin though is able to do an absolute defensive masterclass. Is in a Checo Perez is going to come out or not. So we'll see when Larkin opts to go. Obviously, it's not in the wet conditions anymore, so he could probably try and go just before the banking if he wanted to. or just after the banking. We'll see.
Safety car's too close to him yet to go soon. He can't go until safety car hits the pit lane. So he's actually going to be very limited in when he can go.
I think Larkin should be going right about... I reckon if he goes now, he's got a good opportunity. If he can try and get Lifeboat slowed down at that point, then he has a very good opportunity of doing that. And he has done as well. Lifeboat had a bit of an oversteer moment on that restart, which meant that Larkin had the opportunity of getting away. Nolan had to was overtaken by RJ on the line as well. Nolan going to go defensive on the inside. Miami's going to try and sneak it up the inside of RJ. RJ's going to try and get the traction out of turn number 1. Not going to be able to do so. That is an Alpine that's gone around with Sweet Ross. Now down to the back end of the field. Nolan is now going to be put under an immense amount of pressure from all of the cars behind him. If he's able to bring out his inner Checo Perez as well and keeping it clean, then he deserves his championship at that point if he does manage to pull this one off. But RJ is putting that pressure on Nolan so much throughout the first part of this lap, and Lifeboat as well, all over the back of Larkin for this race lead. Is Larkin going to be able to hold on, Jake, or is Lifeboat going to be able to get the move done on him? What do you reckon?
I think Lifeboat's probably got this. He's staying so close to Larkin, and he's used as DRS as well. I think we could see Felipe gain a place here. I think Chris, we've seen he's not the quickest being out on track today. I think Felipe could still nab a place back from Chris, even if he loses a couple, depending on how it shakes out. Felipe's been very aggressive with his ERS usage through the banking there. He's just got to hold on as long as he can, wait for those tyres behind him to drop a touch. There's going to be no moves into turn 1 this lap, and behind we had Koskap having a look at Rex, but nothing doing there. It's remarkable. We're seeing less moves in the dry than we were seeing in the wet.
Yeah, very surprising to see, to be honest with you. Obviously, I know there's not going to be any DRS until the third lap, or until next lap, shall I say. So, yeah, I think that's when we're going to start to see the moves go down. And look at that, Nolan already losing out time to Chris. Chris is now starting to get those tyres heated up a bit more, and Nolan could be put under some serious pressure on his next lap, as I said, when that DRS does get enabled, because he is just losing time to that Alpine out in front of him. I was saying that he's actually gained it a bit more back through this sector of the track, so I wonder if Chris is just not that strong through this part of the track here. But yeah, RJ, he wants to try and get a move done on the AlphaTauri out in front of him ASAP. He needs to obviously burn that ERS to do so, but he's also got to consider Miami behind him, because Miami is putting that pressure on RJ out in front of him as well. Battle for that race lead. Lifeboat still within 3.5 tenths of our race leader. And the DRS is where it's going to really come into effect. RJ now using his ERS. He wants to go for this move on Nolan. Nolan's going to try and go defensive on the inside. RJ's going to have to swoop it around the outside, unless he can pull the Montana dummy, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Does not get the aggression that he probably would have needed to go for that move on Nolan, and RJ has to sit behind the AlphaTauri for the time being. I'm surprised.
His ERS off. He turned his ERS off when he pulled out alongside. Not aggressive enough from RJ. If you want to help your teammate, that's not the way to do it. And from my point of view, I just want to see some wheel-to-wheel racing. Don't turn your ERS off when you're 70% of the way to making a move.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that as well, Jack. I'm surprised he did turn that off as well. But this battle for the lead is where it's brewing at now. Lifeboat, DRS is now going to be open for the first time on these dry tyres. Not on these dry tyres, sorry. First time after that safety car. Koskappen's round. Koskappen, our other championship contender, now down to the back end of the field. Again, Nolan's probably going to be very happy to see that, and now needs to try and do his best to stay out in front as much as possible. I don't know if you could try and get us a live standings, Jake, if need be, regarding this. But Lifeboat all over the back of Larkin now. DRS wide open. I don't think he's going to be close enough to go for a move in towards turn number 1. Lifeboat, I think, is going to be biding his time for a bit later on in the race. 5 more laps left to go of the session. Larkin's still leading it for the time being. He's been leading the majority of the time for this evening, but I think Lifeboat could cause a bit of a lull for him, and I think could be looking to take this win away from him. Miami, though, all over the back of that Red Bull, and putting a bit more pressure than what RJ is onto Nolan, surprisingly enough.
I don't mean this like in a bad way, but RJ is not a very aggressive driver, and I think Felipe knows where he's at. To be honest, with RJ behind him, he knows RJ's not going to try anything stupid, which makes his position a lot a lot stronger than it would be if he had, I don't know, Koskappen behind him, for example, who'd be more willing to, I think, take a chance on an overtake. So I think, in hindsight, perhaps I was a little too harsh to judge Felipe in staying out, although we have still got 5 laps to go in this one. But so far, he's fending off the advances of RJ well, as is Larkin with Lifebound.
Yeah, Larkin's doing a very nice job of keeping Lifebound at arm's length as well. But yeah, I think the one that's probably getting a bit annoyed out of all of this is probably Miami, because you can see the aggression that he just closes up to the back of RJ, saying that RJ was going into the back of Nolan, going through the banking section. But yeah, Miami was sort of, pushing RJ along last lap down that hill, and to the point where he's now sort of backed off a bit just to try and get a bit of clear air, just so he can just drive at his normal pace. But yeah, I think Miami needs to, I think he's thinking that RJ needs to get past so that he can then have an opportunity of trying to get past RJ, because you can see he's quicker than him from what it looks like, but just can't seem to find a way past because of that DRS train that's pretty much being led from it throughout the entire field, other than to the back of that screen. Lifebound, though, still can't find a way past Larkin. This long DRS straight, though, I think could be a different story, because he looks a bit closer to Larkin this time around than he has done in the past few laps since that safety car restarted, Jake. Also, is it looking a bit more grey again for you?
It is looking a bit more grey, but I think we're too late for anything to come in terms of at least enforcing a tyre change. It could still spice up a little bit. 18 points would be Felipe's lead at present over Koskappen. If Lifebound were to pass Larkin, he'd get to within 40 points of Felipe. I think that would be 39 there. And I said, with 3 races and a sprint race as well, plus 4 fastest lap points, there is no reason to count Lifebound out of this one yet. And he is really hounding that McLaren, looking for a move, and Felipe seems like a little more vulnerable this lap than perhaps he has been the last 2 laps, as Miami's going for it up the inside of RJ there. He's got bored of waiting for the Red Bull to have a crack at Felipe, and he's like, your time's up, sunshine, let me have a go. And he couldn't do anything there, but he's got some ERS to use. He can see RJ red lighting away, and perhaps we're looking at the wrong battle when we look at RJ versus Felipe. We should be looking at RJ versus Miami. And Lifebound as well, within a quarter of a second. Larkin a little out of shape through turn 13 as well. This is the lap, this is the move, Jack, for the lead of the Grand Prix, and it could be pivotal in the championship as well. Larkin's running lower wings. I think Lifebound's going to have to work hard for this one. He's turned his ERS off again, as RJ did, and I think he's still going to contend this around the outside. He'll have the inside for turn 2 as they go up the hill, and then it'll dip away from them towards 3. Lifebound has to back out. Miami does pass RJ into turn 2 as well. It's a good first sector for McLaren in this race, but I think Lifebound in the same as RJ. I think it's arrogance. You think you pull out from the slipstream, you can I can turn my ERS off now. The move's done. It's absolutely not done. You've got to keep that overtake on to max out your chance. If Lifebound had left his ERS on there, I dare say he would have gone round the outside of Larkin and been more ahead when they got to turn 2, that he would have been the one to come out on tops. As it is, he's left himself in the same position he was, just with less ERS to hand.
Yeah, he certainly has, and he did have a little bit of an oversteer moment as well, coming out of turn number 10, as RJ now trying to go for that move on Miami, now down for P5. Miami hasn't been able to catch up to the back of Nolan as to what I thought he would have done on this safety car restart, and in fact Nolan is actually getting away from him, but we're going to see the redemption now of Lifebound on Larkin in towards turn number 1, using that ERS to try and get the move done on the McLaren. Larkin goes defensive on the inside once again. Lifebound is a lot more alongside this time than it was turn 1. They're both still side by side through turn number 1. Lifebound's going to have the better traction coming out of it. Larkin's going to have the inside for turn number 3 though, and I think it's going to be the same result once again. Lifebound needs to try and get to the inside part of the circuit as Koskappen makes his way into the pits to try and presumably go for the fastest lap to at least get an extra point off of Felipe. But yeah, Lifebound just can't seem to get that move done on Larkin. Larkin is putting his car in a very nice position to keep that race lead, but Lifebound, he's got the ERS just to breeze past Larkin, so I'm surprised we're not seeing him do that, and I'll be very surprised if we don't see him do that on that final lap. He's obviously not going to do it here, but on the final lap on that long DRS straight, I think is where we're going to have to see the Haas go for that move. And I'm going to stick on board with it because I think that move is going to be going down, and that's where the battle is really going to commence here, Jake. Whoever gets the better run out of this final corner here, I think is going to be the one that takes the win. And it looks as if Larkin had a little bit of a better run, but Lifeback, he's going to have that DRS, using that ERS through the banking now. No ERS really for Larkin. DRS now wide open for Lifeback. He's using his ERS, breezes past the McLaren, and now up into the race lead on the final lap of the race. And now Larkin has to settle for second position. He was leading the race for, as I said, the majority of the time. He's really going to be kicking himself at the fact that Lifeback has managed to get in front of him. Is the other McLaren, though, going to be able to get the move done on the AlphaTauri? He's so close to the back of him. He's practically pushing him around the part of the circuit. And Miami, I think we could see a move go down in towards turn number 11, as that's an Alfa Romeo that's gone around of licks down in 11th position.
Yeah, unlucky for Licks, but he doesn't really lose too much, does he there? I feel sorry for Larkin. I have lost league races on the last lap before, and it's not a fun feeling afterwards. But I think Larkin will be able to just dust himself off and go again. Miami's not close enough to do anything about Felipe, who has dragged himself back into Chris's DRS. In fact, he played himself well. He would have known, because I think has it started raining? No, it's just a trick of the camera. I think Felipe played this well in the end. As Miami got a terrible exit, and RJ is going to nick P5 there, and I think has he got run out of fuel maybe? It's going to be Lifebout that takes a stupendous victory at Zandvoort. Larkin, unlucky P2 for him. Chris P3, Felipe, in the end a brilliant P4, RJ 5th, Dari 6th, and Miami 7th. I think Miami ran out of fuel. No, he didn't. What happened? He's got 4 laps extra fuel in. What happened to Miami? He couldn't have got a puncture, could he?
I'm not too sure, but I think it has just started raining. I think I just got the camera glitched there, or it has actually just started raining. And yeah, I think Koskappen's going to get the fastest lap in the end. But from what it looked like, I don't think Miami did run out of fuel because it didn't come up with yellow flags. Normally, if they do run out of fuel, it will come up with yellow flags that they haven't got any fuel left to play with. So Miami must have had a massive tank slapper out of turn number 12, which then allowed RJ and Dari to sneak on through on the McLaren. Very unfortunate for Miami, because what looked like it could have been challenging for 4th ended up finishing in P7 after all of that. But it is Lifebout that took the win for this evening. He started on pole. You wouldn't have thought it, considering that we saw him down at the back of the field after, I think it was about 10 laps at one point, onto the intermediate tyres, and just picked his way through the field. Very commanding drive. I know it doesn't show it on the timing screens or on paper, but it was definitely a commanding drive from him. Larkin in second, again another commanding drive from him. Just unfortunate that Lifeback was just that much quicker than him for this evening. Chris ended up taking the final podium position after missing out on a podium last week. I think he can be very happy that he's back on the podium for this evening. Nolan is in 4th with RJ in 5th, Dari in 6th, Miami in 7th, Rex in 8th, Scream in 9th, Sweet Ross in 10th, Licks in 11th. Koskappen did manage to pick up the fastest lap point on that final lap in the end, so he takes 2 points to his name. Luke and Tope are only 2 DNFing for this evening as well, and the points tally between the top 2, well, Nolan goes up to 186 points. Koskappen goes up to 169. 17-point gap difference separating those top 2. That gap has increased ever so slightly with 3 races left to go, Jake, including the sprint race. I say about 80 odd points left still to play for. It's still anyone's game.
It still is anyone's game, and Lifebout has pulled himself into it. He's 39 points behind. Jeddah would be, I'd expect, to be a track he dominates next week. It is the most wheeled track on the game, apart from Monaco, and he's shown himself to be really strong. When we saw his performances at Canada, and then the one at Imola, which he retired from. But until that point, he'd been commanding. I think that's a Lifebout track next week, and if Felipe comes away with another 5th place, which would be a good result for him at Jeddah, then the gap would be 24 points. Lifebout's within a race win with 2 races to go and a sprint race, and we saw what happened in Division 1 a couple of seasons ago. 2 races to go with the sprint race. QVR Campbell had a 26-point lead and lost the championship to Justas. So absolutely, I think Lifeboat is very, very much in this championship. I think it's curtains for Luke, it's curtains for Larkin. They're very outside slim chances that they had. And Koskamen's still in this, but I think Lifebout will be on a mission these last 3 rounds. And we know Brazil, Koskapen won there last season. He's very strong there. I said Lifebout will be strong at Jeddah, but Belgium is anyone's game. I think this is a very finely poised three-way fight for the championship. We've got our title contenders in reverse pace order. The slowest is, no offence to Philippe, I think he'd accept that, is leading the championship, but the most consistent. Got Koskapin in second with middle pace-ish, and then Lifebout, the standout on pace by far, is the furthest back, but I think he has the most to gain from these last 3 races. So I think it's beautifully set up for what's to come.
It certainly is, and you don't want to be missing out any of these last 3 rounds whatsoever in this Division 2 battle. But thank you to everybody that has tuned in for this evening. Make sure you guys are tuning in next week for round number 15 around Jeddah at 6:30 p.m. at British Summertime. Division 1 and Division 3. Division 1 covered by James Head and Old School 3000. Division 3 covered by Jess Gamer and Evil Dragon. And Division 2 and Division 4 at 8:10 British Summertime. Division 2 covered by myself and QVR Killer. And Division 4 covered by QVR Verstappen and QVR Packers. So as I say, all the battles are still going on. You do not want to be missing out on any of those whatsoever. So thank you to everybody that has tuned in for tonight. And we'll catch you guys next week for round number 15